Professor Yerby here, and this is the last section of Learning Module 1. We're just going to quickly talk about who are the attackers out there. So we've all heard the term hacker, and the modern definition of a hacker has become a negative connotation, one who is attempting to break into some sort of computer system. Right? Before the term was kind of perverted into a hacker always being bad, hacker used to mean someone who wanted to take a piece of hardware and modify it to go beyond the intended capabilities. So if you've ever jailbroken an iPhone or rooted an Android or taken apart a remote control car and made it faster or done something to it, you are considered the old definition of a hacker. So the bad guys, when the hacker used to mean good, the bad guys were crackers. But that term is also now kind of outdated. But you may see it somewhere out there, maybe on a certification exam or something. But modern day people, we've all kind of come along to accept that hacker is someone trying to break into something, right? Trying to hack into it for the most part. Then you do have black hat hackers who are the traditional bad guys. Then you have white hat hackers who go out there and try to find flaws or vulnerabilities and try to help people fix them for the greater good. So those are the good guys. And then you have gray hat hackers. So these are in between a white and black. That's how they get gray. They launder their hats together in the same washing machine. And so these people, they'll generally find flaws or vulnerabilities, and they will attempt to sell them, hopefully, to the company and make a living that way. So they're not out there to do damage necessarily, but they do want to be compensated for their work. They're not just out there for the greater good of mankind. You have cyber criminals. So that's just people who are doing criminal acts on the internet. Right, are doing criminal acts in the world. Doesn't have to be on the internet. You have script kiddies, which is a derogatory term. That's a unskilled IT person using some tools that they typically do not understand. But script kiddies can be quite dangerous because tools are sophisticated. The speeds of attacks are quicker. They don't understand what happens with the actions that they perform. So script kiddies can be dangerous. You have brokers. These are people who, again, they uncover the vulnerabilities and then they'll sell them instead of being like our gray hat hackers. Instead of selling the vulnerability to Apple and saying, hey, you've got this vulnerability, I'll try to sell it to some criminals and then they can exploit that vulnerability and I'll make my money that way by selling to the criminals instead of to Apple. You have insiders. So a good bit of attacks come from people that work for the company. So these are difficult to attack because if a person has a legitimate username, password, login, a way to authenticate and authorize them to resources, then you have to have other mechanisms in place to prevent theft, manipulation, damage, things like that. So these are typically people who are looking for some sort of financial gain or people who feel that they have been wronged by the company in some way. You have cyber terrorists. You have hacktivists. Hacktivists would be people like Anonymous, where what they're doing may be positive, depending on your opinion. So they may be hacking into the KKK, who I think we can all agree is a bad group, but what they're doing is they are doing that through illegal criminal cyber actions. So they launch attacks against other people to incite panic or bring social justice to causes that they deem necessary. But it depends on where you sit in the spectrum of who they're attacking. So, like I say, KKK, I think hopefully we can all agree that, hey, that's fine, go attack them. Child molesters, go attack them. Scientology, maybe. Is there somebody in here that's Scientologist? Who knows? Ferguson, maybe. How do you feel? So depending on the issue, I think it kind of changes. I think at one point in the last election cycle, they had campaigns against Donald Trump and campaigns against Hillary Clinton. So I think we can probably find some divided ground in there. So are they good? Are they bad? Are they breaking the law? I think they're breaking the law the majority of the time. Are they good or bad? Kind of personal feeling of that. You have state-sponsored attackers. This is a big danger. State-sponsored means that they are sponsored, that they're paid by the government. So in China, we know that there are state-sponsored attacks. That means the Chinese government has buildings with fantastic computing resources and connections where there's teams of hackers in there, and their job is to commit cyber crimes. So steal intellectual property, change data, be stealthy, lurk in networks for years. Right? And then the last part we'll talk about, we have a few more things here. We'll talk about the steps of an attack. So in the textbook that you have, there's a simple 7 steps. So the first one is reconnaissance, getting more information about the network. There's some software out there to help you do things like this. Kali Linux is a great tool for you to experiment with if you want to learn more about security for the good side or the bad side. But it's the tool's not evil; it's the intentions of the person, right? Weaponization, so that's creating an exploit or a package. Delivery, how do you get that Trojan horse into the gates, right? Exploitation is triggering the exploit. Installation, command and control, and then the actions on objectives, right? So those are some of the 7 steps that are listed in your textbook. Right? Ways to defend against attack. Some fundamental principles are layering, limiting, diversity, obscurity, simplicity. So we'll go over those, and then that'll be at the end of this module. Layering, it's creating information through layers of security. So having one firewall on your entire network that's from one vendor is not going to be as secure as having a DMZ and multiple firewalls, maybe 2 different vendors, to have different layers that they have to break through. Because if we have just one vendor, we have our Juniper firewall out there, and there's a 0-day attack on all Juniper firewalls, we're left vulnerable. But if we have some Cisco or some Sonic walls and some other things like that in there, and one fails, we have a backup layer. Limiting is limiting the access of information, reduces the threat against it. So only those who must use the data or the resource are granted access to it. The amount of access is limited to what a person needs to know, and methods of limiting the access can include file permissions or procedures. So again, that goes back to our 3P model that we've talked about through this entire learning module. Diversity is related to layering. So I kind of mentioned having different vendors, different types of a diverse portfolio of products. And then obscurity, this one I think is kind of the weakest one. So you'll have some security professionals that will argue that obscurity really doesn't give you very much security. So it's obscuring inside details to outsiders. So try not to reveal details through type of computer, operating system, brand of software. It's difficult for an attacker to devise an attack if system details are unknown. So the one that the security professionals really like to kind of rail against in the obscurity is with your wireless security, you can set to broadcast your SSID or the name of your wireless network or not. And so you can choose, hey, I don't want to broadcast it. And some people will say, well, that really gives you no security, because there's lots of tools out there that will go out there and say, show me all networks. And so the best response to that I've heard, and I like to repeat this story, is, okay, so there's no security through obscurity. Give me your credit card number, or give me your bank account number. And I'm like, whoa. So, Alright, so that is all of Learning Module 1. I'll be working throughout the semester to develop the rest of these learning modules, so you may see these on some chapters but not on all as I continue to develop these. Thank you.